2024 FIA Motorsport Games has had a busy Friday already, what with all the different disciplines, whether they're here at the permanent circuit, Ricardo Tormo outside Valencia, whether they're at the Aspar circuit where karting and cross-car takes place. Even the paddock here has got drifting in it, and in the middle of Valencia city there is esports going on. But the track right now is getting noisy, it's getting busy because GT cars are out on track, and this is the first of the two parts of qualifying. They've had two free practice sessions already today. Now it is qualifying. One driver per part, and it is the average time of those two which will determine the grid for tomorrow's qualifying race. The results of that give you the grid for the main race. The results of the main race give you the medals. So it's an important qualifying session, this, and we'll be looking at which driver, indeed which nation, comes out on top. And we've got to start with the home team, haven't you? Because for Spain, Fernando Navarrete and Jorge Cabezas are the drivers. We'll worry about lap times as this session goes on, although it's only 15 minutes, so it's pretty brief. David Addison and Joe Osborne trackside, and as I say, Joe, the road is getting busy, and in a 15-minute session you haven't got that many laps available to you, really.
No, a maximum of 9 laps, and we're already down under 13 minutes, and we're not using tyre warmers here at this event, so all of these cars heading out on cold tyres, and that's why they're looking a little tentative at the moment. So I expect the first 4 to 5 minutes of the session just be getting the tyres up to temperature, then we push and we'll see what everyone has got.
Now, one thing that we did see earlier on in the day was the dreaded track limit problem and people losing lap times. In fact, in free practice 2, we had people being given stop-go penalties. I think one driver, so I was being told by driving standards advisor Peter Dunbreck, transgressed 20 times, at which point that's not an error, that's taking undue liberties. So stop-go penalties will be given out. At the end of an outlap, though, some cars diving straight for the pit lane. Why is that?
So I think that's because they are starting on cold tyres. They will want to come in and bleed some of the pressure out of those tyres. There's a minimum pressure, 1.4 bar, set by Pirelli for safety standards, so they can't be below that. But if they keep pushing, they'll go way over target, probably over 2 bar. So what they'll do now on the outlap, they've probably got them from 1.4 to 1.55. They can bleed 0.15 out, and their target temperature will be much happier. So a bit of a split strategy already that we're seeing across the field.
So for the home team, for Team Spain, Fernando Navarrete you're looking at in the Audi R8 LMS, one of the turnkey GT3 cars. Now, there are a number of drivers within the GT disciplines this weekend in their regular car, with their regular team. There are others that are hiring a car, getting a team to run it, so there's a learning curve going on there as well. Here, for example, Chris Froggatt and James Cottingham for Team United Kingdom. It's the car that Chris Froggatt regularly races, but James Cottingham has never raced a GT3 Ferrari before. Even though the family business, DK Engineering, prepares Ferraris, in modern GT terms, this is a first. Yeah,
first time in a 296. By the way, don't be alarmed with the smoke in the background there. That is drifting from our drift track, and it is just the guys having fun behind the pit lane, so it's going to catch our eye a bit. But yeah, correct, James Cottingham never driven a 296 GT3 until this morning. His initial impressions were pure love, so I think he is on for a good weekend. Chris Froggatt as well, going well. But yeah, the track limits is going to be a big problem that you said about earlier. Just the nature of the circuit, so wide, so open, so inviting as a driver to give them an excuse. Why are they going wide? They want to go fast. The faster you go, the wider you go, and eventually the track limit crops up.
Just going back to that point about how much Chris Froggatt and James Cottingham go well, so well did they go down the pit lane even that both of them copped speeding fines this morning, but hopefully they'll be able to channel that in their respective sessions and get the car to combined pole position for the qualifying race. Now, right now, the fastest time that we've had out of anybody is coming from number 71, which is the Lithuanian entry, currently with Arūnas Gečauskas at the wheel of it. He's done a 1:43.808, 4 seconds quicker than anybody else, but that's a bit of a phony 4 seconds because others are still cycling into the mix. Up towards the end of the lap now comes 75, that's for Team China. And over the line goes Yaki Zhang, and is now the fastest, but 8 seconds up the road as people generally now cycle towards a proper push lap.
Yeah, really shows you a little compromise as well there, China. I think that was the German entry, Mercedes, just probably on his outlap after bleeding the pressures. But yeah, I expect pole to either be a high 32 or a low 33. So Team China there still sort of, I think, 1.5 seconds off what will be pole position as their tyres now up to temperature.
We haven't yet got a lap time out of Germany nor France, the defending gold medal holder, nor the United Kingdom, and the other one that we want a lap time from is the Ukraine entry, which has got Konstantin Gutsul at the wheel of it right now. So for the moment it is China ahead of Spain, and then Lithuania third in the times, and we've just got 9 minutes and counting of Q1 to go. And you can see the nature of the Valencia circuit there with all the different cut-throughs. The track busy because there's going to be rally stages on it at the end of today and tomorrow and Sunday. So the circuit in all its configurations being kept very busy indeed. Now, number 8 you're looking at is the Malaysian entry, Selim Rafiq at the wheel, coming up towards the line. He's been racing in Lamborghinis this year, but in Super Trofeo Asia, not in a GT3 car. So it's a bit of a step up.
Yeah, big difference. The drone shot showing us a great shot of the Malaysian flag as well on the roof of that Lamborghini. But yeah, the Trofeo car to GT3 is a big difference. So it's going to be a steep asking, especially on a track like this where you're really using the wider front tyre and able to roll the speed into these tightening corners. That there's a lot at Valencia. So yeah, it's going to be a steep learning curve over the weekend for the Malaysian car there.
Right, Spain over the line, and Fernando Navarrete was only 0.4 of a second back. Now he's quickest, 1:33.9, 9/10 up the road, and takes a really wide approach to turn 1. That's exactly the part of the circuit where the race director gets a little bit edgy, not only with the amount of runoff you take on the way in, but on the way out of the corner as well. And we've had an awful lot of people losing lap times through transgressing at turn 1 over the course of the day thus far, and there walloping the curb and running out wide from what's that, turns 8 and 9 is Navarrete, but he got away with that.
Yeah, it's quite a common mistake there, I think, as the apex curb lulls you in. There's a large sausage curb that then throws you up. We have seen quite a lot of cars go into the barrier on exit there, so the Spain car doing well to hold onto it. But yeah, not only would that be a track limit, but that is slower to do. But going back to your turn 1 point, it's quite cool to be able to do track limits twice in one corner on entry and exit. So, and just remember, one track limit over the whole lap, the 14 corners, 4 kilometres here at Valencia, loses the whole lap time in qualifying, and we're seeing a few cars that still haven't set a time. France was still in the pits, they're on their out lap now. We said how short this session is, under 7 minutes remaining, and still no laps on the board for that car.
And they're still pressing on Team Spain, so Fernando Navarrete up the curb again, coming through turn 12, and now makes this climb through turn 13. The road drops away towards the end of the lap out of turn 14, which is another part of the racetrack where people have been going wide and being pinged for track limit offences. Up towards the timing line, this long pit straight. Navarrete breaks the beam and goes quicker still, 1:33.581. So now over a second to the good. But I still think when you factor in Hubert Haupt and Eric Debard and James Cottingham, it's going to get interesting. Cottingham's first flying lap is a 1:34.6 to put him 4th fastest, as you look there at number 71, which is then up to 2nd fastest now, the Lithuanian entry, Arūnas Gečauskas at the wheel of it.
Yeah, and we've seen the British car there, still purple, Sector 1 from Team Spain. So they are the fastest overall in Sector 1. Spain had purple Sector 3 as well to take the pole position lap at the moment provisionally, as we look at the United Kingdom car there coming through. Cottingham, first time in it, like we've said, still be finding his feet. They're just the differences of all of these GT3 cars just take a while. I think he's actually backed out of this lap. He was worried about catching the Malaysian Lamborghini. He's decided, actually, I'm going to give up that purple sector and just find myself a bit of space. But is he going to hold up Team Japan? I think that is, and another Ferrari catching him through turns 13. He's got to back up even more, otherwise his Malaysian problem is now a Japanese problem.
Exactly so. While all that's been going on, James Cottingham has lost an earlier lap time, so he's now got nothing on the board. So this next lap, he's going to have to be really good because he's got nothing to rely on. Eric Debard and James Cottingham, France and the UK, the ones that need a lap time. Cottingham's lap has just put him 10th, and Eric Debard has not yet done a lap time. He's not had anything taken off him. It's just that he hasn't done a lap, as far as I can work out. So James Cottingham is now 10th, but this lap, and you're riding with him, has got to be good with less than 5 minutes to go.
So let's ride through with Team UK. Coming into turn 4, second gear. You can see on the dashboard there, up to third, back down to second. No, he's leaving it in second, so not carrying the speed he was earlier. Coming out of here, you can see how tight and twisty and just how much these exit curbs especially want to take you out there and give you a track limit penalty. You cannot cross the white line with all 4 tyres. That's the rule. Coming through the flat out kink, turn number 7. Going to have a hard brake here. 4th gear, you see the rear of the car snap, and that's why we've gone in a little bit deep at turn 8. I think he just touched the curb on entry. That just loses us a bit of rear stability. Then the car snaps out on the brakes again here. Turn 11, late apex. It looked like he was going in too deep. That is the line. You want to get the exit speed on this short straight into 12. Careful of the apex curb. This is the large sausage curb we saw Team Spain hit and go into the gravel. Flat out through 13 and down the hill. Super hard to get your braking point here because it is downhill and never straight. The car doesn't want to stop as efficiently as it would on a nice straight flat bit of tarmac. But that looked like a fairly decent lap from Cotton. Let's see where he breaks the beam. I've also seen Team Spain have lost their fastest lap, so their provisional pole position has gone. That 33.5 that they did is actually, they've gone all the way down where they now T6. So track limits are a hot issue here.
James Cottingham second, and at the end of this lap he's going to encounter traffic, so James Cottingham getting himself up to the pointy end. There's more to come from Team Germany. Hubert Haupt, here he is, up towards the line, and Patron goes quickest then, so Mercedes number 4 for Team Germany, 1:33.1. News buzzing around the paddock that for next season the Haupt Racing team is going to be running Ford Mustangs, and a full GT World Challenge Europe programme is on the cards, and that's going to be something to savour. Hubert Haupt, who these days is a very successful, wealthy real estate dealer, but go back to the early 1990s, factory Audi driver, raced in single-seaters in America, and still a very, very quick racing driver, even if he drives a desk more than a car these days. But it's his team, and he does as much racing as he can, and this is the dark horse, I reckon. Team Switzerland, it is Dexter Müller and Yannick Mettler as the 2 drivers. Dexter Müller is behind the wheel at the moment, and it's an interesting livery the car has got, but it works well. Dexter Müller, very experienced in terms of GT racing, both in GT classes and in the Le Mans Cup against prototypes. Hubert Haupt is going quicker still, but Müller 9th is going to be an improver as well.
Yeah, the good thing with Müller and Mettler is they've been teammates for the past 3 seasons as well, so they know each other very well. And with the SPS team that run a very fast Mercedes, so I think they're probably the overall package that you would look to for race wins, just purely on how much they've done together. A lot of nations obviously bringing drivers together for the first time, so always hard as a driver to just get on with a new teammate, agree on the car setup, even the run plan. There can be some friction, which is always fun with your teammate. You're always trying to be polite, but sometimes that goes out the window when you're a selfish racing driver. Is how on a lap, purple sector 1, slightly slower in 2, but not by much. Chance to improve there, and he does into the 32s. That's where I thought pole would be. And
there's his co-driver Finn Wiebelhaus looking on, the 18-year-old German, who is another very quick driver. So Germany, I think we've got a decent chance in this. For the home team, for Team Spain, down to 8th now is Navarrete, so he comes out of turn 14. He'll get one more lap out of this before the flag, but he will take the flag at the end of the next lap. And he's up to second. Good effort then by Fernando Navarrete, 1:33.4.6, and then he's got the lap time taken off him. So cancellation of lap time, track limit offences. So it's like the snakes and ladders game, isn't it? You go up, you go down.
Yeah, as we see the Malaysian car parking up for the session, they're not going to get back out, so they're currently in 12th position, so not sure if a problem there. They're deciding to save the tyres a little bit. There's only 4 sets of tyres for the whole weekend for this race, so the teams are sort of split on strategy. Some teams talking about only using 1 set of tyres for the whole of qualifying, so it'll be interesting to see if they take those tyres off and put a fresh set of Pirellis on for the second driver.
And for Malaysia, it'll be Weron Tan who will be the second driver. Hubert Haupt, in the meantime, is still going for it. He's done another absolute best in the first sector, a little bit down in the second, but he's still pushing on, and that's the car that is second in the times as well for Lithuania. So Gečauskas up through turn 13, also going for it, and should be an improver. The margin is 0.8 of a second betwixt the two. So Hubert Haupt is going to escape and get one more lap out of it. He's done a 1:32.733. He's gone quicker again. And Gečauskas takes the checkered flag, and he does a 33.399. So he's brought the gap down by 0.2.
Yeah, what a session from Hubert Haupt there. 0.6 clear is really, really strong. And let's remember, this is an average combined qualifying. So Q2, these times will get added together, and that gives us our grid for tomorrow's qualifying race. So that big gap has really handed Germany a huge advantage in that sense.
And 7th fast, this is where you find Lithuania. So coming up to take the flag, Konstantin Gutsul. As 2 years ago, if you think back to Paul Ricardo, when we were having the Motorsport Games in Marseille, there was a huge amount of support for Team Ukraine. No doubt it will be the same again this weekend, and it's great to have them here, great to see the competitiveness. And it's a lap abort it, as into the pit lane comes Gutsul. That just buys them a little bit more time, doesn't it, to do that driver change. The clock obviously stops at the end of Q1. There is a break, but you'd like as much time as possible to do anything to the car, impart data to driver, and get the incoming driver just comfortable in the car, I guess.
Yeah, and even a chance to make a couple of quick setup changes, roll bars, dampen clicks, even ride height. So, yeah, if you can give it to the team, then you might as well, as we see both Japan and China box as well. And you can see how late the pit speed starts. It's still coming here. So the drivers are practicing for tomorrow's race, where we do have a pit stop. Obviously, the quicker you come in, the less time lost is a positive.
Down the pit lane, past the podium, and then they'll return to their teams. The pit garage is, of course, being used by the GT teams and by Formula 4, the touring cars and the one-make GT teams in the paddock, but then obviously they will camp in the pit road. There is James Cottingham. So in the end, 4th. He's still on a lap, but he is not looking quick. So I think this is purely an in-lap, but he has stayed out to the checkered flag. But he had to, given that so many lap times were being taken off him.
Yeah, and they did the strategy, didn't they, where they did an out lap, came in, bled pressures, and then went out again. So they only had 10 minutes of the 15-minute session to set a lap time. And when you're losing 90 seconds every time you do a track limit, you can see suddenly you didn't optimise your performance. But talking about optimised performance, that is exactly what Team Germany did in that session.
And just to make the point that the regulations for the GT discipline allow you to have a bronze and a silver, or if you want 2 bronzes, but definitely not 2 silvers. So ideally, it's a sort of pro-am format, but silver and bronze, the maximum driver grading you can have.
Yeah, and every team using that, apart from Japan, who have got 2 bronzes. So it'll be interesting to see in Q2 if Wakasaki can be somewhere in the mix of the silvers. He's almost got no fear there. He's the only bronze. So everyone would expect him to be towards the rear, because that is what his grading alludes to. But he may have a nice attitude where he's got nothing to lose.
New boots for Team France, and it will now be Paul Everard to get on board. The driver that we're about to talk about will be the start driver for the qualifying race. So you qualify in Q2, you start race 1, and then it's the other driver, obviously, that will start the main race, and it's the main race where we have the medals. So, well done, Team Germany, for provisional pole position, but we need to see what happens in Q2 to determine a proper order for that grid. Q1 headed by Team Germany, Hubert Haupt the driver, Lithuania 2nd, China 3rd, 4th for the United Kingdom, James Cottingham from Team France's Eric Debard, and Konstantin Gutsul for Ukraine. Japan 7th, ahead of Switzerland's Dexter Müller. Home team Spain 9th from Qatar, Chinese Taipei and Malaysia, rounding out the 12. Now though, the driver on the right of that graphic will take over, and you'll add his time to the driver that's just been out on track and get the average for the grid for the qualifying race for GT. So a busy pit lane, teams getting ready for Q2. Q1 for the GT discipline at the 2024 FIA Motorsport Games began with Team Spain looking rapid as Fernando Navarrete was out on track and was quick early on, but then others started to get into their cycle and depose him, and he also lost laps through track limit offences as well, and that inevitably was a big factor within the session. Gold medalist at the 22 FIA Motorsport Games, Team France looking rapid, and in the end it was 5th for Eric Debard behind Team UK. 4th, James Cottingham. It was Yaki Zhang who was 3rd for Team China. and then with Lithuania second, all the plaudits went the way in the end of Team Germany, because Hubert Haupt was the fastest, and he just got quicker and quicker as the session went on. In the Mercedes-AMG GT3, Team Germany's Hubert Haupt fastest in Q1. So drivers getting themselves ready for Q2. 15 minutes on the clock once more. One or two surprises maybe. Switzerland, I thought, could have been a bit quicker in that opening session, but it's where they are on the grid. It's what the average is going to be that will determine. One or two cars yet to be ready. Look, wheels not yet on Team China, but you don't necessarily have to be out right at the very start. And even though it's a smaller grid, it's, again, important to get some clear track space. But Team Germany's Hubert Haupt has done a cracking job, and Antonio Rankin is in the pits with the fastest man from Q1.
Hubert, a brilliant lap to represent Team Germany.
Yeah, it's fantastic. In the moment we are P1. I hope it stays like that. Proud to race for Germany here in Valencia. Beautiful weather, cars running, so everything's good.
Now, you've got plenty of time, obviously, to enjoy it out there and really get a feel for the car. Do you think that you'll be able to continue this across the weekend?
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, the car is good. I think the setup is really good and we are quick. So if we don't do any stupid mistakes, we should be on the podium.
Of course, this is all in good spirits and it's a lot of fun to see you guys out there. What does it feel like to represent Team Germany?
Yeah, it's really something different. I mean, usually you always race for yourself, for your team, with a teammate. But to race for Germany is a special honor. It's something special.
Especially a team with so much history in motorsports and as a country, a real center of the world for that kind of thing. Do you feel that that carries with you today?
You always have a certain push. I mean, there's so many amazing race drivers coming from Germany. There's so many titles won from Germany drivers. So yeah, it's an honor, but on the other side also it gives you some more adrenaline not to do anything stupid.
Well, you've been doing great so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So happy Hubert Haupt, fastest thus far. And as we've been making the point during that first part of the qualifying period, a huge amount of experience. He had quite a few years off from racing to go and build up businesses after his, if you like, professional career stopped. But as an AM plus, he's not really an AM, it's unfair to call him that, but he's a very, very accomplished, experienced and quick driver. And he makes a valid point about representing his country. Yeah, okay, this might not be part of the championship, but that's not to say that people aren't taking this seriously. They're all here to win.
Yeah, and you're right, he's probably one of the shiniest bronze drivers we have. These driver grading so important to keep GT racing fair. The FIA deciding each year on what grading, but he is definitely at the top of his game, and hence why he was on pole position by 6/10. But yeah, to represent your country, to have that sort of patriotism, to really bring it home, must add more pressure than performance would be my only sight on that.
Now, Finn Wiebelhaus, who will take over, has been racing for the Haupt team in the ADAC GT Masters this year, and he is going to be the incoming driver. So it's, without being ageist about it, the sort of old master in Hubert Haupt, the young gun in Finn Wiebelhaus, and he will drive for Team Germany in the single driver GT Sprint on Sunday. We'll worry about that in a couple of days' time, but that's another of the disciplines at the FIA Motorsport Games this year. Wiebelhaus has been a very rapid driver all season. He's been racing in the GT Winter Series as well, but it's going to be fascinating to see how he shapes up against one or two other drivers with huge amounts of experience like Yannick Mettler, Paul Everard and Chris Froggatt.
Yeah, and I think the line in the sand that Haupt was put there as a 32.9 benchmark lap time. I don't think there's going to be more than a second between the silver driver and the bronze driver in that Team Germany car. Such a good job Hubert Haupt did there.
Now, we're almost ready for Q2. Before we do that, though, let's hear from Fernando Navarrete, because he is representing Team Spain. He's been out on track and he's now with Antonia.
Fernando, first of all, a home race today, a really lovely weekend for you, and you do seem to have good pace.
Yeah, I think I do a good lap, but another time the track limits is horrible for me. I have not the total control to the car because it's my first time with Audi, and we will see in the race. I expect to do better.
It seems to be a really nice occasion to try a new car and try new machinery. How have you found the R8 so far?
Well, it's new for me. No, I don't make test. I don't make test nothing. But it's an incredible opportunity for me to be in Spain, my country, my home, and for sure I try to push hard in the race.
Best of luck. Thank you.
Another interesting point, isn't it, that he's not had a chance to test the car. He's not an experienced GT racer, whereas others, we've made the point, Joe, are in their regular mount. So here you've got this, it's going to be a bigger battle, isn't it, to overcome those that are regulars in a GT3 car in that particular model, and here you are coming in fresh.
Yeah, Fernando there qualified 9th, so he won't be happy, but his lap that he lost would have put him 3rd.
Yeah.
So I think that's why he's positive in that conversation with Antonio, and I think that's going to be interesting in the race. He's going to be a lot further back, and he's going to want to go forward, which naturally will breed some action, because all the cars have left quite close together. They'll be trying to find their space. Should kind of space out here where you get 6 to 7 seconds gap in front of you, but that never works out because you want the biggest gap, so you force the car in front fast on this out lap, then back off as late as you dare to generate that gap. As we see Chris Froggatt in the Ferrari, be interested to see what tyres he put on. I would say they're new tyres. Why? Because he's weaving. So I'd say they're cold. They're not the tyres he inherited for James Cottingham, which would be hot. What are Japan going to do? Just trying to spot those tyres. There are these stickers on there. Look like a used tyre to me. A little bit of pickup on the front left tyre. Trying to save a new set for the race potentially. So yeah, a lot of strategies at play here at the moment.
And it is going to be for Q2 Shigekatsu Wagisaka at the wheel of Team Japan's Ferrari. That car that is operated out of the AF Corsa stable, ready to go. Lots of Ferraris here this weekend, with the one make GT discipline being for Ferrari Challenge cars as well. So clock ticks on down, 13 minutes we have still to run as there the Audis get themselves together. Number 19 now is Jorge Cabezas Catalan at the wheel, and Cabezas will make the run up towards turn 2 at the top of the circuit. But the two Audis of Team China ahead, then Team Spain behind, trying to make sure they've got clear track space. It's good for China at the minute. This is the run now up the hill, heading towards turn 6. And tyres getting up to temperature all the time.
You can actually see the balance of this Team China car compared to the Team United Kingdom car we went on board with. Looks a little bit more balanced, less snappy on the rear. They're able just to get the car in. As I say, there's a big snap of oversteer as he gets on the throttle. So Team Spain there, Audi, just on the brakes there, just trying to see the dynamics of these cars, the strengths and weaknesses, all worked out equally with the balance of performance, trying to make these cars do exactly the same lap time, but they will have different strengths and weaknesses a little bit at each point. So yeah, maybe the Audi not riding the curbs quite as well as that Ferrari, but does seem a little bit more stable, especially on corner entry.
So right now, Jorge Cabezas is going to offer up the first target time. It'll be the quick S, but it's not necessarily going to stay as others get faster. Tyres get up to temperature, and Fernando Navarrete's crash helmet attests. He's now going to be standing watching, and Cabezas goes through. That Audi being run by the Attempto team. In the background, you could see Arkin Arca, the man behind the Attempto racing squad. So familiar teams, even if it's for them unfamiliar drivers, but there's a squad that knows all about running a GT3 Audi.
Yeah, they've won races across the globe, haven't they? So
yeah.
It's sometimes interesting to see which team chooses which country and pairs up that way, because they're the best GT teams in the world here running cars for many different nations as well. As we see Chinese Taipei in that Mercedes, makes such a nice grumble, that V8 pulling through the gears. A little bit wide off the apex curb at T3 there. You can really launch the car across the inside and stay legal on track limits, which is quite a novel idea for some of these drivers in this session at the moment. Kicking up a bit of dust from the apex at turn 5. Got to get back over, try and get it straight as you can for the brake zone into T6. Then this long back straight. I think this will be a flashpoint in the race for overtaking, not through this kink here at 7, but the brake zone now into 8. Cars trying to stay wide to open it up, which will naturally leave the door open. I think it's going to be a bit of side-to-side contact there, and then it's dependent on how fair they are of who keeps the position after turn 8.
And up to the top of the times for Team Malaysia has gone Weiron Tan, the former GT4 Super Cup Asia champion. Now Kang Ling for Team China goes fastest in his Audi, one-time European Formula 3 championship racer. And for Lithuania, across the line now goes Jonas Karklis, and he will go quickest, 1:33.739, a 10th up the road. This at the moment has the makings of being the more competitive part of the entry, doesn't it, with these drivers trading tenths rather than full seconds. Others have yet to go. For the Ukraine, it is Ivan Pelkin at the wheel. That car run by Land Motorsport, Wolfgang Land's squad. It's now run by his son Christian, although Wolfgang is here himself, and he was hugely successful as a racer in Porsches, but it's with Audis that he's won titles, won the Nürburgring 24 Hours, and Ivan Pelkin for Team Ukraine goes now down pit lane and will blend onto the circuit the other side of turn 1.
Yeah, did a really good job actually to back out of that and not impede the Japan car, which was on a lap through turn 1 already. As we look at the Team China Audi there, coming through the curbs, like we said about the Spain car, just sometimes coming off the curb looking a little unsettled, and that as a driver just means that you have to catch the car every time you come off a curb. So you're kind of questioning, weighing up, is it worth hitting that curb if it's given me a moment after it? But normally you do, just because it takes so much angle out of the corner, you're ultimately quicker, and that is your decision made for you. Coming out the last corner, careful of the track limits, looked good to me, kept a wheel on the white line. What we're going to get lap time wise, no one has actually beaten Hubert Halb's lap time from Q1 yet, and Team China crossing the line just about do it by a couple of tenths, 32.7, fastest in Q2.
Yeah, Haupt did his right towards the end. We've still got 8 minutes of this to go, so in theory those times can come down even further. So it is Kang Ling then from now. In fact, he loses that quickest time because up to the top goes Jonas Karklis. Interestingly, we've got far fewer track limit warnings and cancellations of laps in Q2 than we had in Q1. Big lose from Lithuania there, getting up the curb. That was Karklis, but he survived it. And has he had a lap time taken off him? He was, I thought, the quickest, but it's gone back to being Kang Ling once more. Meanwhile, it is China, Lithuania, Spain, the top 3, Japan 4th, Team Malaysia 5th, and then Chinese Taipei rounding out the top 6. But sort of aping what we saw in Q1, still plenty of nations that have yet to do a first flying lap.
Yeah, I think just because the Q2 should be quicker, the more experienced drivers, I think they've all done this strategy of coming in to beat the pressures and then looking to find a gap. So everyone in the next 3 minutes should set a representative lap time, but because they're more experienced, they don't need the full 15 minutes like some of those bronze graded drivers to set their lap time. But it does feel a little bit racy with 7 minutes remaining that we still haven't had any lap times from 4 cars.
But they will count as Weiron Tan heads up towards the timing line now for Team Malaysia and goes through and stays 8th, even though the lap time was a little bit better. And sorry, now he's 4th in the times as he goes through. So Weiron Tan up to 4th in this part of the qualifying period. Here is Team Spain. So Cabezas goes through and is now 3rd on aggregate, as Jonas Karklis is at the top on aggregate. Yeah, so he's 2nd in Q2, but fastest on aggregate.
Yeah, and this is where you hoped your Q1 driver did a good enough job to give you a chance of being at the sharp end. First couple of rows here at Valencia will be really nice. Overtaking, sometimes a little bit difficult. So if you can be in those first 4 positions, you've got a chance at the start to get a good run and maybe launch a bit of a lunge into 2 to lift that car a little bit higher, a little bit wide. Out of there, you could probably say that's going to be a track limit done, and that could be the lap done. And the problem is these tyres do go off. They're at their best lap probably 3 or 4 when there isn't a tyre oven, and if you're then going beyond it, you are then just losing time. Team Germany struggling with the rear a little bit more. Now the car is working hard. And
now we'll see what Finn Wiemelhaus can do for Team Germany then, which is currently 7th on aggregate, on the average, and now goes to the top on the average as well. So Finn Wiemelhaus on that lap did a 1:32.106. That puts Team Germany at the top for the qualifying race. Chris Froggatt then up to 2nd. Team United Kingdom goes 2nd on aggregate, and he's fastest in Q2 is Chris Froggatt, 1:32.004. But it's Team Germany with a combined average that is going to be provisionally pole.
Yeah, I just wonder if Riebelhaus actually lost that lap that we were talking about to the track limit. We saw him run wide out of turn number 11. So looking happy in Chinese Taipei garage there. We're seeing so many cancellations of track limits, aren't we? It's hard to
but not Germany, no.
No, I just wonder why we've not seen them go quicker. Was that not their best lap they lost?
I think what we have been seeing is the one timing tower is showing you the session and the other is showing you the aggregate. So the timing tower is Q2, but what you've got at the bottom is for the average. So Wiebelhaus did get the car to the top, but at the moment Team United Kingdom have gone quickest on the both session and I think the average, or certainly the session. I think still on the combined, it is Team Germany that is top. Because remember, James Cottingham was a bit further down than Hubert Haupt, and therefore on the average it's good for Germany at the moment. It'll all unravel after the remaining 4 minutes. And remember, this is a sort of means to an end. It gives you the grid for the qualifying race. That gives you the grid for the main race. So it's going to be an interesting race tomorrow, that's for sure. But that in itself doesn't get you a medal.
Yeah, we see Wiebelhaus actually improved to a 31.9, so he's now a second quicker than his teammate Hubert Haupt, like we thought he would be, but he only obviously needs to be within 6/10 of any car to be combined pole. Such was Haupt's job, as we see Team France running wide. I feel like I'm dobbing everyone in for track limits, but it is in front of us, and obviously all the stewards here able to see it, and then we really cement our case for a track limits on this lap coming out of turn number 6.
So this is Paul Everard, who we know is very rapid indeed from his time spent in the GT World Challenge Europe, and Paul Everard then comes now down to the completion of a lap. He had done a personal best early on. There's nothing yet on the timing screen to say that this lap's going to be taken off him, but even if it's not, it's a little bit scrappy, and you would wonder whether it's going to be a significant improvement.
Yeah, even from the body language of the car, looks like he's backed out. Yes, look at Sector 2, he's 2.8 seconds off, so he's quite wisely gone, well, I'm not going to be given this lap, so I might as well save the tyres and then probably find a bit more space as well, because you are backing out of it, and then launch an attack out of the last corner here at 14. Even go for a later apex just to give you a better drive out the corner, so when you hit the finish line and then you start your lap, you're doing a higher speed all the way into turn 1.
So Paul Everard goes through, and there, looking rapid, number 54, this is Team Switzerland, Yannick Mettler, coming up towards the timing line now. Mettler has done a personal best, an absolute best, and as he comes up towards the timing line, let's see, still stays 7th on aggregate, but goes 3rd in Q2.
Yeah, he was actually getting a tow from the other Mercedes of Wiebelhaus in front, and his lap time was less than a tenth of a second behind. We're seeing some pretty tight gaps here. The first 3 all covered by 500. So Wiebelhaus and Froggatt from Mettler all within half a tenth.
Yeah.
Shows you how close it's going to be and how good the race is going to be tomorrow as well.
Yeah, and Paul Everard is only, another 10th back on that, so he is looking rapid too. Kang Ling is 5th, and he's adapted. There is Team China in the pit lane, but Kang Ling perhaps didn't really sparkle as a single-seater driver, but in recent years he's developed into a very good GT driver in Asia, and was rapid around the streets of Macau last year, for example. 6th behind him, it is Ivan Peklin from Team Ukraine. So Peklin is next, and the session has got just about a lap time and change remaining. So 1 or 2 can squeeze another lap out of it if the tyres are willing.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's what we're seeing, people pitting now. Then again, they're looking at saving these tyres for the race. Every lap you take off is 4 kilometres less on the tyre. That might be the difference if you're trying to overtake someone in the race tomorrow. Still looks like Wiebelhaus is pushing hard. This lap at the moment is good enough to potentially improve. It's all about Sector 3 here. When you add up the first 2 sectors, getting a bit of a slipstream off Qatar in front in the Porsche as he crosses the line. Can he beat a 31.9? Is it going to be close? Just about. Look at that for consistency. Purple Sector 3, he just about improves his time.
And here comes Mettler over the line. Disappointing though that, because it started off nicely, but slower in sectors 2 and 3. So Team Switzerland are 3rd in this part of qualifying, and a big lose for Ivan Peklin, rattling it over the curb, coming through turn 12 for Team Ukraine, but he survived the moment.
Yeah, huge snap of oversteer. Again, saying about the Audi not looking happy off the curb. I think Peckling then did a mega job to catch that. That would have been a full 180 degrees of opposite lock on the steering wheel. So good save from Team Ukraine there. Chinese Taipei, pushing on into turn 12. We talk about characteristics of cars. The Mercedes curb riding attributes are probably the best. So if you see that car smashing the curbs around this lap, don't be surprised, because the car takes it so well.
Chinese Taipei then coming up towards the end of the lap, and for the nation it is Yang Lao at the wheel. Checkered flag will greet him, and Yang Lao, Peter Yang, goes through 11th on aggregate, and we've just had an improvement as well from Team France, I think, as Paul Everard went by. Now, we haven't seen much of Porsche in the session, but for Team Qatar, Ghanim Salah Al Mahid is at the wheel with the Qatari entry. Looks great in that colour scheme.
Yeah, beautiful, and the sound of it as well. The flat 6 coming out of turn 14, they're screaming all the way down. Going to break the beam for one final time in this session. Can he improve? Not quite, but it was close to his best. An average of a 1:35.0 is going to see them line up 10th tomorrow in our qualifying race.
So Al Mahid goes through 11th in this part of the session, 10th on aggregate. So Finn Wiebelhaus fastest in Q2, but it's the combined average we need to be looking at that will determine the grid. But the good thing about that session, we've seen it's going to be competitive. Drivers have had yet more track time, and if they're new to the car and the circuit, which of course is the other leveler in all of this, they've done a bit more learning, and people have got through without any dramas and any damage, which is good to see.
Yeah, but I'm also interested to see how lively the cars are, so I think it's going to breed good racing, because the drivers aren't having it easy, relatively low grip out there, some of the drivers complaining about. So whenever that's like that, it means it's harder for the drivers, which gives us more action. You see the cars being waved back into the paddock, technically running like reverse garages here. The cars are actually facing out the back of the garages to allow better fan access to be able to see all these beautiful cars and hard-working teams.
Yeah, it's something that we trialled in the very first FIA Motorsport Games at Vallelunga, and other championships have used that for the fans in domestic events. But the paddock here, particularly tomorrow and Sunday, when people aren't at work, is going to be very, very busy indeed, given that there's a lot to see. There is the ASN village, there's the merchandise area, and the drifting has its own track within the paddock. There's enough space to give the drifters plenty of room. And in turn, they respond with plenty of smoke, and that's been the busiest area today. There's also the service park for the rally competition. That comes to the track later on this evening. It's out on the stages around Valencia at the moment, but it is all a very, very busy paddock indeed around the circuit Ricardo Tormo. So some of the cars, I mean, Joe's touched on, they're going to their garages. Some have to go to scrutineering as well, and their garage will be accommodating the cars very shortly. Others still making their way into the pit lane. And as far as the GT discipline is concerned, they will have the qualifying race tomorrow. We'll be on air for that at 10:50 local time, and it's a 60-minute race with the mandatory pit stop between 25 and 35 minutes, and that determines the grid for the main race, which will be later on in the day, around about 4:30. So the GT teams have both races tomorrow, and some of the cars are going to be used again on Sunday in the GT sprint competition, where, for example, Finn Wiebelhaus will represent Team Germany once more. So drivers down the pit lane at the end of Q2 for the GT cars. So this is how we look at the end of Q2. This is the session lap times, with Germany the fastest from the United Kingdom, and then Team Lithuania third. It's China fourth ahead of Team Ukraine, France sixth, then Team Switzerland ahead of Team Japan, Team Spain, Qatar 10th on the combined average, Chinese Taipei 11th, and it's Malaysia then at the foot of the times. But Hubert Haupt, along with Finn Wiebelhaus, doing the times for Team Germany, and the aggregate giving you 0.6 of a second as the margin between Team Germany and Team United Kingdom. But it's going to be a really interesting first race, that is for sure. And it will be Wiebelhaus, Froggatt, Karklis, Ling, Peklin, that second listed driver who will be the start driver. So those are the guys that are going to go toe-to-toe over the first 25 minutes or so of the race. So Team Germany takes the provisional pole position then, after, in fairness, both drivers topped their respective parts of the session. And the FIA Motorsport Games flags up and down the pit lane, up and down the paddock, where drivers will be returning to their teams and making sure that the cars are good for tomorrow, having a look at the data, trying to find in some cases where they can find more time if they're new to the car, as you've been hearing from the likes of Fernando Navarrete, new to the circuit as well. For many, there's an awful lot to learn, whereas some do have the experience of the car, the track, the team they're working with. And GT, along with GT Sprint, along with the one make, single make GT concept, joining Formula 4 and touring cars this weekend as the circuit race element. But a very busy FIA Motorsport Games this year with so many different disciplines. Q2 for GT got underway with 15 minutes ahead of the teams, and it was Kang Ling for Team China who was looking rapid early on. But as others started to get through their run program, the time started to come down, and it wasn't long before Lithuania and then ultimately Team United Kingdom and Team Germany were able to put themselves up at the pointy end of the order. Paul Evrard for Team France had a lap spoilt by one or two moments of running wide. Yannick Neckler, in the meantime, for Team Switzerland, was still pressing on as well and getting himself up to third in Q2. Second, though, would be Team United Kingdom. Chris Froggatt doing the driving duties, but following the good effort of Hubert Haupt in Q1, his co-driver Finn Wiebelhaus topped the times in Q2 and gave provisional pole position in the GT discipline to Team Germany. So looking down to the sort of paperclip style of the circuit Ricardo Tormo, named after the very successful late motorcycle racer. But with Finn Wiebelhaus taking the top time in Q2, there's an awful lot to celebrate for Team Germany, and Antonia Rankin is with them.
That was absolutely fantastic, guys. What a brilliant job you both did.
Fantastic. P1, that's the best start for the race, and we are racing for Germany. That's great.
Yeah, Hubert did an amazing job in Quali 1, putting it on pole, and I just copy-pasted, and yeah, it was a good job.
Well done, thank you.
Germany then the fastest in the GT discipline, and a great job done. It's an experienced team. They're drivers who know the car as well, but even so, they had to deliver, and they delivered in style. Hubert Haupt and Finn Wiebelhaus then for Team Germany take pole position for the GT discipline. They will have their two races on Saturday here at the FIA Motorsport Games, with the qualifying race and the main race on which the medals will be decided.